Welcome to the Pro Brick exclusive YouTube channel with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. I am sharing my testimony relative to codependency. This is part 3 of this series. Raised by a jockey, my mother was a hairdresser. The marriage failed because my father was a womanizer. Listen to the other 2 parts before this to get the full picture, but we're up to the point where we are at Flemington, living in units down in Sydney, just as the markets were being designed and ready to be built. I remember the excavators across the train lines, sorting it all out. And I used to get told as a young kid, go and play on the train lines. My stepfather would say, go and play on the train lines. And I couldn't comprehend that. I thought, no, you can't play on the train lines. I was only 7 years old. I remember they used to take me to soccer. I used to play for Flemington. Who were they? Flemington something. And I have to thank my parents for all the soccer they took me to and things. But codependency wasn't something that I had a chance to have. Whilst my young sister was there the whole time, she wasn't codependent either, because she'd be left sitting on her own as well, because I'd be out running the streets while mother and the stepfather were at work. And the stepfather would knock off work and go and sit down the park. I don't know. I can't work a lot of it out. How my relationships have ended up the way they are, I don't know, because I hope one day that I really do, that I meet the right person or be the right person or whatever is required. I don't know. But by this time I was fully independent and heading on 8 years of age. I wasn't relying on anyone. I think the trauma of not knowing my mother as an infant and now living with her, there was this space between us. There was always this, not a bad space, it was just a space that was developed by her being sick when I was a little child. And there was a lot of stuff, a lot of sickness that happened, strange sicknesses that happened because of spiritual inadequacies and things like this. I remember now. I never had an identity. I didn't know who I was. That's why I was running around all the time and playing on the rooftops and running the streets. And I'm sure there's an old picture of me somewhere standing in a pair of tracksuit pants with one thong and an odd shirt on the top of a set of units at South Strathfield. A real odd photo of myself, looking back at it. I had no time to be codependent. Codependent was no. And the reason why I say this is because codependency can happen, but I thought when I got, okay, so I'm going to jump up to being married. And I think one of the problems for me when I was married was I was so industrious, like trying to get things done, I suppose, that this gap, I think, that was between my mother and myself found its way into the marriage as well. Even though we were close and we had a lot of fun in our family. And I guess if you add her troubles with her issues with her father and all that, put these 2 combinations together. And I don't have the right to go into the details of all that on her side. The stupid part about it all is we all still get on today. This is the part that I don't understand. Things can come to a terrible head, and everything can be pulled to pieces. But time does have a way of revealing what actually happens, and it's got a cruel way of teaching us, but a beautiful way of healing us as time goes by. My codependency, I guess, if I did have it, was lost early in sixth class, and I've spoken about this before when we were about 11 or 12 and we took some chicks to the pictures, and it all seemed to go well, kissing and all the rest of it. Little kids, I thought it was wonderful. And then the girl that I took to the pictures said that she didn't like me. And I found that hard to understand. But I learnt very quick that girls have got a mind of their own and they'll use it as they will. And it's of no detriment to what happens to you. They don't care. And that was a wake-up call for me, 11 or 12 years old, that you really are on your own. It's a gift if somebody does want to be with you. And then, at this point in my life, I got to ask myself, I had a girlfriend that was turning up. She was coming here, but I couldn't go there because there was issues. So why did I force the idea that these issues had to be fixed? And then finally, because I wanted to stay at her place now and then, but that was going to be violating the boundaries of her sons, I suppose. And I guess I was getting worn out with the pretense that I was some kind of bad person when I wasn't. And I got worn out with the fact that she wouldn't lay the cards on the table and straighten it out. And the fact that apparently I, to some extent, was supposed to sort it out. And I think I had a little breakdown or something in the end and got on the phone and just said, this ain't fair and you can piss off or whatever, which wasn't very nice at all. But that was the end of that relationship. But it was a matter of unresolved. And this is where a lot of relationships come undone. The little things that people just can't see or don't want us or are just unable to resolve, and they're prepared to jeopardize their relationship over it. Is that bad? Well, not if they're happy to lose their relationship, I suppose. What about for the other person, though, that wants a relationship? Well, couldn't have wanted it too bad because I told her to go. And this is how these things of unresolved creep up on you. No different to you needing someone to stop drinking and you having to decide, do I stay or do I go? Someone on drugs, do I stay or do I go? At some point, you're going to get put in a position where you've got to make a decision. But I was always taught you resolve the issue before the issue resolves you. But these days, people aren't resolving anything. And so there's, as it were, bodies and arms and legs lying everywhere from relationships that could have worked but didn't. And it seems to be of no consequence to anybody. It's like we're hardened to resolve and softened to not fixing things. And I guess with all the options now, with marijuana and all this other stuff. See, there's two groups with marijuana. There's the group that go, it's good for you. And then there's a scientific group that goes, it's partially good for you if you use it the right way. But beyond that, it's not good for you at all, with paranoia or schizophrenic and all this other stuff that happens from it. And of course, you've got the two schools of thought. One school is it's all good for you. The other school is it's all bad for you. But it all comes down to how it's used. At the end of the day, it can be abused like anything else. So codependency wasn't something that I ever had. I even remember when my marriage started to fail and my wife had had enough of it. Even though we were still living a pretty happy life, the kids were still jumping off the veranda into the pool and all. I was trying to make it fun for them. But she was breaking down, unfortunately, and she didn't make it. She just didn't make it. And I don't know who there is to blame for that. I'll take my part of the blame, and I paid my part of the price, a very heavy price. But I do remember it coming to the point where she had to go, and it wasn't a matter of codependency then either. It was a matter of honor, and we've built this family, and now it's gone. And that was trauma. That was real trauma, that experience. I think every breakup that I've had's involved trauma, because you don't want people to go. You want them to stay, but the next thing I'm telling them to go. It's like a curse. It might be time I got sorted out with this curse. But yeah, when you get to my age, which is 57, you start to get tired of things that could be resolved and aren't, and you keep doing the work on yourself, and physical and mental and educational and all this other stuff. And that's why I do this, to try and share from my life, to try and help somebody, just one person, stop and think about what life can do. One of the keys to my life was remaining straight, not wanting to touch drugs and alcohol and all the rest of it. Learning at a young age and watching what happened to my parents and my stepfather from all that stuff. And it frightened the shit out. I didn't want to go down that road. It didn't work for me. It was never going to work for me. Alcohol and drugs only ever brought trouble and sadness and loss and sickness and disease and all that with it. And I look at people today and I watch them smoking, drinking and all the rest of it, and they're aging and they're getting old and they're going to die, and they're going to die before their time. But they don't think they are, but they will. And it's quite frightening, really, isn't it? Because they become codependent. These people that don't want to be codependent are codependent on their substances. They're codependent on their children. They're codependent on their pets. They're codependent on everything. It's quite absurd. And then they're challenging me and asking me if I'm codependent. I'm thinking, codependent? Never. Never in a million years would I be wanting to be codependent. I want to rest and lay and love and share in an intimate relationship, of course, a healthy relationship. But I'll never be codependent on anybody. I just don't want to be. I don't need to be. I don't think a woman needs that or wants that. But I don't care if the woman's codependent on me, as long as she's doing the right thing, because people don't last long around here that don't fix their issues, because we're people of resolve. And the sad part is people are coming into the circle for a little while and then they're being exposed and going straight back out because they didn't want to live up to what they said they were going to. It's I think one of the complications in my last relationship was watching this lady and saying to her, yeah, it's all right, there's no worries, it'll all sort out. And we were plodding along, and then it just wasn't going to sort out. It just wasn't. Her children were never going to give in to the fact that I was not, welcome there. And therefore I've gone, well, I can do better than this. There's got to be healthier people than this toxicity. Even though she was still coming here, she just never dealt with it. And it's hard to understand. So who was she codependent with? obviously her children. When you're fearing something, you're frightened of losing your dependency. And that was it. She lost the relationship instead. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, on the ProBrick exclusive YouTube channel. Join me on the next one. Bye for now.